With a collection this size, the challenge was deciding which medals to show and how to display them, says Ben Wu, one of the 3 student curators behind the exhibition. In the end, they selected nearly 70 medals, plus a handful of texts, paintings and prints.
Because every single one of these medals have a story. And what's interesting is what we found when we visited most museums that featured medals or coins is it tends to just be rows and rows lined up across the hall, and they're not very accessible to viewers because often you're left to your own devices on figuring out what exactly it is.
The approach they decided on for this exhibition was to group the artifacts thematically, assessing their political, historical and aesthetic significance. The show also features glass display cases in the centre of the room, so you can see the front and back, or obverse and reverse, of some of the medals.
We were really focused on kind of what are the relevance of medals now in our contemporary history within a museum, basically. The original purpose of medals were to be held in your hand, and we can't do that necessarily all the time inside of a museum.
You may not be able to hold the medals in your hand, but visitors are invited to use their own handheld devices to enhance their experience. With technical help from Bowdoin College senior interactive developer David Francis, the curators developed an innovative web-based interface that enables viewers to tap into a wealth of knowledge about each medal on display. If you don't have a smartphone, a couple of iPads have been installed for the public to use.
The intimate scale of these objects kind of is benefited by the intimate scale of this gallery that we're exhibiting in. And the idea that we wanted to create this interface that kind of expands beyond the labels because we are so limited in what space we can and what information we can portray. So with David Francis, we were able to kind of develop this online interface that you're able to scan a QR code and then access an online website in order to get more information on each individual medal. And we always talk about that this is kind of your exhibition as well, that you can tailor it to your interests. If you're only interested in medals of women, you are able to access that. If you're interested in only Italian or 15th century, you kind of can tailor your experience to that.
As Benjamin Wu said, every medal here tells a story, and what stories they are. One was designed to oppose the German invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1939. The medal attracted a lot of interest at the Czech Pavilion at the World's Fair in New York that year and served as a rallying point for protests against Nazi aggression. Another medal was struck in honour of 18th century scholar Laura Bassi of Bologna University, who at 20 years of age became the world's first female professor. 2 of the medals on display were ordered by the Vatican and show the effects of a fire that destroyed much of the papal basilica at St. Paul in Rome in 1823. 30 years later, the second medal shows us a newly restored basilica in all its shining glory. For student curator Stephen Pastoriza, the show was not only an opportunity to learn about the museum business, but also a chance to build on his academic major.
Being a Russian major, I was interested in seeing what aspects of Russia could be conveyed in a medal. And so up here we have the medal of the founding home from Catherine the Great. And basically it was the first social institution established in Russia. And so what I find most interesting about this medal is we can look at it both from an art perspective. It's a portrait of a powerful leader, but it's also commemorative of what she's done.
That the opportunity to work on the show has been a real voyage of discovery for all of us.
Goodyear praised the innovative spirit shown by the student curators.
I do think that the question of how these medals are made accessible to patrons will have a revolutionary effect on how people are able to understand them. And I think that being young and thinking in innovative ways about what might be possible has made lessons available to us as scholars that will continue to be extremely important as we think about the future of medals and their relationship to our contemporary society.
The Molinari collection was donated to Bowdoin more than 50 years ago, and it's been more than 40 years since any of it was exhibited. This show has been more than 2 years in the making, and it's been quite a learning curve, say the curators.
I think it makes you really appreciate when you go to a museum and you see this really well polished exhibit that there's just so much work and effort that went into creating every little bit, like the labels, the arrangement.
I think I learned the possibility that comes with each individual object within a museum, the idea that it doesn't necessarily have to end at these walls, at these exhibition walls.
The experience that most everybody has in a museum is just getting to see the art, but nobody really understands how it's put out and into where it is today.
A handheld history, 5 centuries of medals from the Molinari collection at Bowdoin College, is on display in the museum's Markel Gallery through January 6, 2019.